brings you all the local, national, and international news you need to make sense of your world.
I've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement.
Now's your chance to enjoy a free preview of Canada's source for breaking and live news.
The air raid sirens went off.
Find out why more Canadians choose CBC News Network over any other Canadian news channel. The CBC News Network free preview. On now.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're 11 degrees with mostly clear skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. A former Winnipeg teacher faces charges related to child sexual abuse material. Police found materials and videos he had allegedly recorded from a swimming pool change room. Winnipeg authorities were alerted to abuse images on a man's mobile device in July. Police investigators found hundreds of images and videos. Among them were recordings of children and adults getting undressed in the family change room of a public pool. And Constable Claude Chancey says that's not all police found.
Information came to light during the investigation which led investigators to believe that the suspect had previously inappropriately engaged with a student while he was teaching at a high school in a North End neighborhood.
37-year-old Matthew James Mousseau has been arrested on numerous charges, including sexual assault. Chancey says Mousseau worked as a teacher at several Winnipeg schools until May of this year. He was released on court conditions. 2 people have been arrested in a case of animal cruelty. Investigators say it was one of the worst cases they've ever seen. Constable Stephen Spencer says in August, someone sent a tip to the office of the provincial vet about videos and photographs of animals being killed and tortured. He says those videos and photos were posted on the dark web. The cats were believed to have been acquired from social media sites. Police searched a house in the Lord Roberts area and found 10 cats and a rabbit. Spencer calls it disturbing.
Investigators told me that this is the worst case that they've dealt with, a very, very horrible case involving animal cruelty.
Spencer says cases of animal cruelty can often lead toward violence toward people. A 55-year-old woman and a 40-year-old man are both being held in custody. The Premier says construction will begin by the end of the year on a personal care home in Lac du Bonnet, even if he has to do it himself. In March, Wab Canoe announced the 95-bed facility would be started by the end of 2024. But so far, nothing has changed. Nothing has happened on the $66 million project. Canoe admits it's taking longer than expected.
This thing is not moving as quickly as I would like. However, we are going to get shovels in the ground this year by December 2024. December is my birthday month, and if I have to come in on my birthday on the last day of the year with a shovel myself, I will do so in order to move this project along. Lac du Bonnet has been waiting for more than a decade for a personal care home. It was announced in 2012 and again in 2017, but didn't happen. Nonprofits in Manitoba say they're struggling from an increase in demand and a lack of resources. The Winnipeg Foundation says a number of factors are leading to issues. Megan Tate is the group's VP of Community Impact. She says as the cost of living increases, people don't have extra money to donate to various causes.
There might be a drop in individual donations. We're not necessarily hearing about funding cuts, but we're hearing about funding that is static. It's not increasing despite the increase in costs that community organizations are facing. Everything from their rent to the food that they provide to their programs. And a big one is staffing.
Tate says while nonprofits support increases to the minimum wage for their staff, it is another increase in costs. She hopes governments, businesses, and the public can come together to support the nonprofit sector. Manitoba's unemployment rate, like Canada's, is on the decline. Statistics Canada is out this morning with the latest labor figures, and they show 47,000 jobs were added to the economy last month. That drops the national unemployment rate down to 6.5%. In Manitoba, the rate edged down to 5.7%. Overseas, the Lebanese Health Ministry says 22 people were killed overnight in Israeli airstrikes on central Beirut. Margaret Evans has your details.
The missiles arrived after dark, not in the ravaged and repeatedly hit Hezbollah stronghold in the southern suburbs, but in the heart of Beirut. On Tuesday, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned the people of Lebanon they could face Gaza's fate unless they overthrew Hezbollah. One of the militant group's officials was the apparent target of last night's strikes. Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati called on Israel to stop its attacks on civilians and residential neighborhoods. This morning, there was another report from the UN's interim force in Lebanon of Israeli attacks on its peacekeepers monitoring the demarcation line in southern Lebanon, the third such report in 48 hours. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Beirut.
And finally, billionaire Elon Musk took a break from the Donald Trump campaign trail for an event of his own, unveiling his Tesla Cybercab.
We'll move from supervised full self-driving to unsupervised full self-driving, where the car, you could fall asleep and wake up at your destination.
Musk says the robo-taxi will go into production in 2026 with a price tag under $30,000. His goal is to have a fleet of cybercabs, which passengers can summon with an app. Individual Tesla owners can cash in as well by listing their vehicles as robo-taxis. A high of 15 and sunny in Winnipeg today. Brandon sunny, a high of 16 degrees. Dauphin mainly sunny and a high of 14 degrees. Flin Flon mainly sunny, a high of 13. Thompson sunny, a high of 10 degrees. And in Churchill, you're seeing a mix of sun and cloud today with a high of +5. Right now, you're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1. Happy Friday. It's October 11th. My name is Chloe Friesen. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. Coming up on today's show, Adventures with Nature Norm. How you can take a tour with Norm through the tall grass prairie and learn more about conservation. I probably don't have to tell you this, but it's the Jets' home opener tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. How do you feel about this year's roster? What are the team's chances of going all the way this year? We want to hear from you. Joining us will be Trevor Alexander, writer for the Hockey Blog. Now, the phone line opens just after the 12:30 news, but you can already text us. Send us a text, 204-588-7355. But first, Canada is adding another $15 million in funding to support humanitarian aid in Lebanon. As the conflict between Israel and the Lebanon-based militant group Hezbollah escalates, Canada is adding another $15 million to support humanitarian aid. Ottawa will also contribute up to $6 million to the Canadian Red Cross and Humanitarian Coalition's funds for Lebanon. And it will match all donations made by Canadians up to a maximum of $3 million. The Winnipeg-based Mennonite Central Committee partners with 3 organizations that meet the life-saving needs of more than 1 million displaced Lebanese civilians. Bruce Gunther is the Disaster Response Director for the MCC. We spoke earlier.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Now, what are the most critical needs?
Yeah, so the escalation has happened very quickly, and it's in the background also of a very severe economic crisis in Lebanon. And of course, the country continues to host many Syrian refugees. People have had to leave very quickly, and these are very densely populated areas. So key needs right now is always food is top of the list, and of course, shelter, because many buildings have been destroyed. And people are staying often in temporary shelters, such as schools and other public buildings. So, yeah, all the basics that, one can think of, including food, water, hygiene items, and of course, the shelter that they need to keep their families safe.
How has the MCC's work in Lebanon changed now that this conflict has escalated so quickly?
Yeah, very significantly. We have 3 partners working in 3 different areas in Lebanon. So in the Bekaa Valley, in southern Lebanon, and in Beirut. And they're all now having to shift to providing emergency food, for example, to those displaced persons. And thankfully, our partners and MCC has lots of experience with responding to previous crises in Lebanon. So very thankful for their work, and also just really, thinking of them as they're all doing this at great risk to their own safety and security.
Right. What are you hearing from MCC staff who are on the ground there?
Yeah, I spoke with a colleague last night and asked how, or her morning, and she said, yes, it was a very bad night. She's in Beirut, and very significant bombing campaign. And anybody who's visited Lebanon knows it's a very densely populated country, and those are very densely populated areas that are being hit. So
is that
very scary for people, and you're not able to get much sleep.
Right. What other obstacles are there to getting aid into Lebanon? So it's densely populated. There's escalating violence in the area. What are those biggest obstacles?
Yeah, the challenge, I think, is just the overall mass displacement. So there's a huge level of need. We're talking, anywhere between 600 to 1 million people that have been displaced in Lebanon. So ensuring aid gets to those most in need. But yes, I'd say safety and security remains a very critical piece and obstacle. But as I said, partners have done this work before and are well positioned to respond. So people are getting that urgent food that they need, and we're working on planning for the ongoing response.
What is that like, coordinating and managing an aid effort and keeping the folks who work with MCC delivering this aid safe? Sadly new for what MCC does, but what is that process like of organizing and managing? Yeah,
so we want to keep staff, their safety is our primary responsibility as an organization. So staff aren't working in the Beirut offices they normally would. They're working from places that are more that are safer for them, but at the same time are meeting with our local partners to monitor the distribution that's happening. They're a very resilient staff, and so despite the challenges that they're facing to their own in their own lives.
Now, I mentioned off the top here that Canada is adding another $15 million to support humanitarian aid, and will match donations made by Canadians up to a max of $3 million. How will this new money help in MCC's work?
Yeah, any donations made to MCC, and that goes until November 3rd. We'd encourage people to donate, and they can donate through the Humanitarian Coalition. That's the group of agencies that are together responding to the crisis in Lebanon. So people can donate at together.ca, and that will help MCC as well as other organizations as part of the Humanitarian Coalition to provide food, to provide water, to ensure people have protection. And those response plans continue to develop each day.
Is there anything else that Manitobans listening can do to support MCC's work?
Yeah, we ask people to donate, and also to keep devastating. They have been through numerous crises and economic crisis. They're hosting a huge number of Syrian refugees. The bomb blast from several years ago. So it's one thing on top of another. And so this is going to be, while the emergency is happening now, and we hope and advocate for an immediate ceasefire, and ask others to also advocate for an immediate ceasefire. But the needs will be there for a long time. We ask people to think about Lebanon and the response there right now, but also it will be a long-term challenge to rebuild and help people recover.
Bruce, thank you so much for spending time with us here today.
Thank you so much. And again, people can donate at together.ca. So thank you for those that are listening and those that continue to give generously.
Bruce Gunther is the Disaster Response Director for the MCC. Canadians who support MCC's response will have their donations matched by the Government of Canada until November 3rd.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens
and how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
It is 12:15. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. I'm Chloe Friesen. Thank you very much for joining us. Coming up on the show, our call-in conversation kicks off just after your 12:30 news, and we want to know what you think about this year's Jets roster. Tonight is the home opener for the Blue and White. You can text us at 204-588-7355. And of course, our phone line's open at 12:30. Call us if you're planning on going to tonight's game. Do you have any pregame superstitions or things you do just to give the Jets a little extra luck? Let us know. Give us a call. Also, still to come, we're going to meet someone named Nature Norm. He'll share his expertise on the tall grass prairie and conservation, and we'll find out how you can join him for a hike tomorrow. Turning to our weather forecast, sunny skies across much of the province today, with highs in the mid-10s. Tomorrow we could see a chance of rain in southern Manitoba, but Sunday and Monday are looking sunny and clear for your Thanksgiving long weekend. Brandon, partly cloudy, 13 at the moment. Dauphin, sunny, 13 degrees. Thompson, mainly sunny right now, 6. And in Winnipeg, mainly sunny skies, 13 degrees with a forecasted high of 15. There are hundreds of species in Manitoba that call the tall grass prairie, and they're called Adventures with Nature Norm. He meets participants at the Prairie Shore Trail near Gardenton. It's about just 6 kilometers southeast of Winnipeg in the heart of the tall grass prairie. Norm Gregoire is the community liaison for Species at Risk for the RM of Stuart Burn and joins us over Zoom. Hi, Norm.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. My first question, very important. When did either you first call yourself Nature Norm or were you called Nature Norm?
I think it was one of those nicknames that happened organically. I don't think it was myself that came up with that name, but it stuck.
It seems to suit you very well with the work that you do. Why has it been so important?
So I grew up in the tall grass prairie area in southeastern Manitoba, and truthfully didn't really know much about it myself. And as I grew up, became an adult, started learning more about how special this area is. The tall grass prairie ecosystem is just about the most endangered ecosystem right across North America, and the prairies as a whole are considered the most endangered ecosystem in the world. Tall grass prairie in specific, in Manitoba, we have less than 1% of it remaining from what it once was. So we have a very small amount of tall grass prairie. And yeah, so it's just really important that other Manitobans know that we have this incredible ecosystem here in our backyards.
Less than 1%. I didn't know that. That's fascinating and very sad. Norm, you work closely with the species that are most at risk. Can you tell us about some of these species?
Yeah, so in the tall grass prairie area, we have 28 different species at risk. So these are species at risk that are at risk of becoming extirpated or extinct if trends continue. We have 59 in Manitoba. So having 28 here in the tall grass prairie gives you an idea. The rare ecosystem provides home for rare wildlife, and it ranges from birds and a wide range of species.
Do you have a certain species that if you spot it on one of these hikes, you're very pleased and very excited?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, these Adventures with Nature Norm, they go on every month throughout the year. So I do sort of try to target certain species at certain times of year. For example, around Canada Day is when the a really, really special orchid, the Western Prairie Fringe orchid, is in full bloom. So I bring folks out to see that. So the Western Prairie Fringe orchid is found nowhere else in Canada. It's only found around the tall grass prairie area. So it's a really special one to see. We have over 50% of the global population of this orchid in less than 50 square kilometers. So yeah, it's a really impressive orchid to see. Extremely beautiful. If you haven't seen photos of it or seen it in person, definitely look it up. It's just an incredible orchid. So yeah, you never know what you're going to see when you're going to go out on the trail, but certain times of year are good for seeing certain things.
Right. So can you describe what happens on one of these walks, one of these adventures with nature, Norm? How do they play out?
Yeah. So, I mean, I always say it's not, it's not really meant so much for exercise as it is more so for getting out.
There's a lot of stopping.
Yeah, a lot of stopping, a lot of, bird watching, identifying plants. I'm looking for a wildlife sign, just taking our time, enjoying a tall grass prairie, learning about it, learning about all the species that call it home. And yeah, that's the fun of it. You never really know exactly what you're going to see. Every time can be a little bit different. But yeah, everyone's welcome to come, grandkids to grandparents and everyone in between. We do have a wide variety of folks coming and join from all over, not just southeastern Manitoba, but I've had some folks coming from even farther to join.
What's your favorite part about sharing the tall grass prairie landscape with people on a monthly basis?
Well, there's a lot of, it's a hard question to answer because there's a lot of things that are great about it. I think just if folks aren't aware how special the ecosystem is, once they learn that this part of Manitoba, how rare it is and how lucky we are that we have any of it left. I love that knowledge sharing with them. And because I know that they're going to go and tell other people as well, right? And that's what it's all about. And then I get all sorts of interesting questions from folks that say, oh, so-and-so is out with you on adventures with nature, Norm, and they told me about this and they're interested in it. So that whole knowledge sharing is really special for me.
What do you hope people take away from these walks in terms of what they can do to protect these species at risk?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's easy to sort of think about, your day-to-day living and what you can do to protect the species or ecosystem or environment as a whole when you're sitting at home. But once you're actually in it and you put sort of a face to the idea of conservation, it makes it easier to do the things at home. And for the average person, we're talking about like really simple things, the whole, reuse, recycle, all of that. Like I mentioned, knowledge sharing is really key, right? The more folks that we share with this special area, we pass that on to our kids or grandkids, and maybe those kids will grow up and they'll become the scientists that are working to, protect the endangered pouch-cheeked skipperling, that tiny butterfly we have out here. That the population can probably be measured more in the hundreds than in the thousands. So it's all of this sort of different ways of protecting the environment.
Now, lastly here, Norm, what do you hope you spot on tomorrow's hike? What are you looking for seasonally right now?
Yeah, we are going to be focusing a lot on the changing colors in the prairie. It's perfect timing right now. Just amazing colors in the trees and in the grasses and the different plants that we'll be walking through.
Sounds like it'll be a beautiful hike. Norm, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Norm Gregoire is the community liaison for Species at Risk for the RM of Stewart Burn. The next Adventures with Nature Norm walk happens tomorrow morning at the Prairie Shore Trail. It's 5 kilometers west of Gardenton on Highway 209. And if you want more information on how to sign up for one of these walks, you can go to the website sharedlegacymb.ca or you can email info@sharedlegacymb.ca.
Hi, I'm Matea Roach, and I have a new show on CBC. It's called Bookends. Every week, authors from Canada and around the world will join me to discuss their latest books. We'll have best-selling authors and rising stars. Our conversations will be smart and surprising, because when the book ends, the conversation begins.
Bookends with Matea Roach premieres Sunday afternoon at 1:30 in Newfoundland, 3 Pacific, and on demand on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Rob Norman.
I'm Andrew Norton.
And on Personal Best, we help you tackle the stuff you'd be too embarrassed to ask an attractive, successful life coach about.
We have a slightly different approach to self-improvement.
Which is, we don't know what we're doing.
Definitely somebody following me.
She's holding a sword.
This is so nuts.
But in the end, it always works. Okay, it sometimes works.
You have no idea. This makes me...
Personal Best, Season 3. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on your CBC Listen app. I'm Chloe Friesen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Dylan Longhurst is our show technician. Wendy Parker is our show director. And Kevin Nipatebo is behind our YouTube controls this afternoon. It's time for a little bit of music here. Juliana Riolino, her latest song might have you feeling a little nostalgic. It's got a distinctive 60s vibe to it. Here's Against the Grain. While that song sounds like it was made in the 60s, that is a brand new song from Juliana Riolino out of Welland, Ontario. That is Against the Grain here on Radio Noon. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Chloe Friesen. Very much looking forward to our call-in conversation coming up after our 12:30 news. We want to know what you think about this year's Jets roster tonight. Is that home opener for the blue and white? How do you think they'll do this season? Are you heading to the game this evening? You can text us 204-588-7355. The phone line's open just after 12:30 news.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're at 12 degrees with mostly clear skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon, I'm Matt Humphrey. A difficult story. A former Winnipeg teacher faces charges related to sexual child abuse material. Police found materials and videos he had allegedly recorded from a swimming pool change room. Winnipeg authorities were alerted to abuse images on a man's mobile device in July. Police say investigators found hundreds of images and videos. Among them were Matthew James Mousseau has been arrested on numerous charges, including sexual assault. Police say Mousseau worked as a teacher at several Winnipeg schools until May of this year. He was released on court conditions. A man and a woman are facing numerous animal cruelty charges after photos and videos of cats being abused and killed were found on the dark web. Winnipeg Police Constable Stephen Spencer says someone came forward in August and reported the images to the provincial vet, who then took it to police. Investigators searched a home in Lord Roberts where they found 10 cats and a rabbit. Spencer says investigators described this as one of the worst cases of animal cruelty they'd seen. He says it's concerning.
When individuals that are believed to be involved in heinous crimes, against helpless animals, it often leads to escalating violent behavior towards humans. So we take that very seriously.
A 55-year-old woman and a 40-year-old man have been remanded in custody. And finally, Manitoba's premier says even though prescription birth control is already free in this province, the federal government announcement could mean other items will be covered here. Yesterday, the bill to provide free birth control and diabetes medication was given royal assent. Premier Wab Kinew says this province and others are negotiating with Ottawa to see what can be done with that funding.
That there might be a way where we can be creative, working alongside the federal government to say, all right, birth control is covered. Are there additional coverage, are additional forms of coverage for other forms of women's health, other forms of reproductive freedom?
Kinew says BC, British Columbia, has already signed an agreement with Ottawa, and it is using the money to pay for hormone replacement therapy. He wouldn't say if that is an option for Manitoba, but this province is considering its options, he says. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can go to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Did you see the Aurora Borealis last night?
No.
Apparently it was quite spectacular.
I was in bed early, as I usually am, and so what happens is I go to bed and then I wake up to
like everyone else.
Photos
oh, yes.
on Facebook and Instagram of just gorgeous skies.
Yeah.
Did you catch it this time?
No, but there was supposed to be a coronal mass ejection, which lit up our skies.
Ooh.
A little cloudy last night,
A
though.
little bit cloudy.
Okay, back soon.
Thank you, Matt. That is CBC's Matt Humphrey. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. A quick look here at our weather forecast. We are looking at sun across most of the province today. We could see some rain, a chance of rain in southern Manitoba. Sunday and Monday, however, are looking sunny and clear for the Thanksgiving long weekend. Brandon today forecast is sunny skies with a high of 16, currently 13 degrees, partly cloudy. Dauphin, you're looking at a high of 14 with mainly sunny skies. Thompson, mainly sunny, high of 10 is in your forecast. And in Winnipeg, today we're looking at sunny skies and a high in the afternoon, a high of 13. Into Sunday, sunny skies, a high of 11. And Monday, Thanksgiving Monday, the forecast is for sunny skies and a high of 10 degrees. Well, shortly we are going to start our call-in conversation about the Jets and their home opener tonight. How do you think they'll do this season? What do they need to do to hoist the Stanley Cup? You can text us at 204-588-7355. I'll let you know when those phone lines open. You can give us a call. That number, if you want to write it down, is 204-780-0893. Are you planning on going to that home opener tonight? I want to hear from you. I want to know what jersey you're wearing. I want to know what food you're planning on getting at the stadium, and just what you think of this upcoming season and how the Jets will do. So last season, the Jets soared to a 4th place finish in the overall standings, tops among Canadian teams, thanks to Vezina Trophy winner Connor Hellebuck, who tied Florida for the fewest goals allowed in the league. But in the playoffs, as we sadly remember, they drew a tough first-round opponent, losing to the Colorado Avalanche in 5 games. Now this season, Scott Arniel takes over for the retired Rick Bowness behind the bench, and Hellebuck is back, helping the team start off strong in the season opener on Wednesday against the Oilers with a 6-0 win. Fun fact, Hellebuck made 30 saves that game. So how are you feeling about the team's chances heading into this season and tonight's home opener? Give us a call. Phone lines are open, 204-780-0893, or you can text us at 204-588. And a regular guest here at CBC Manitoba. Hi, Trevor.
Hi, how's it going?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Looking forward to tonight.
Nice.
Having a good time with 1-0 record right now. We'll see if we can go to 2-0. So yeah,
you're repping the blue. You've got the Jets hat on. You're ready to go.
I'm ready.
Let's start by doing a quick debrief of Wednesday's game.
Sure.
Against Edmonton. Were you expecting such a high scoring game?
No. Obviously playing the Western Conference champions, you expect a little bit more pushback from them. But I want to be not negative towards Edmonton, but I mean, Stuart Skinner did not look great in that second period, so I'll take the win. I'll say that. I'll be nice.
I like it.
I do like what the Jets showed, though. Some good power play time out there. But at times looked a little sort of confused, but at the same time, though, held their own, and Hellebuck was Hellebuck. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I want to talk about Hellebuck because ahead of this game, we had learned that he wasn't at some of the practices right away, and it was due to a personal family matter, and that's all we know. But then he returns without those practices to a 30-save shutout.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about Hellebuck?
But I mean, I think Adam Lowry sort of said it best. He was talking to Murat Atesh from The Athletic a little bit about it and said, like, they're a tight-knit group, and he's one of the guys, and everybody sort of had a moment with him at the airport to sort of say, hey, welcome back. Like, we need you. Like, you're part of us, part of our team, right? So I think that speaks volumes to how, I don't want to say how prepared the Jets were, but how tight-knit that group is. Just how close they are in knowing that, one of the guys needs a, day off, week off, whatever it is. Like, we got your back, man. Don't worry about it. Sort of thing.
So speaking of Hellebuck and how great he did, the Jets' defense, as you mentioned, has been criticized for letting too much through and relying on Hellebuck a little too much. Did you see Wednesday's game as another example of that?
First period, a little bit like that, only because there was a couple good chances there for the Oilers to get sort of on the board. So as the game went on, though, I think they got better and better, and certainly, got to see a little bit more of what we're expecting to see out of that team. Not certain if it's going to stay that way all season. I only say that because, again, there are guys that could be coming back from injury. But from what we saw, good enough to hold the fort, which is, I think, the key in this situation right now is that we have 6 guys that are ready to go and ready to go at any time. So that's good.
All right. You can phone us if you want to join this conversation. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. Who are you most excited to see hit the ice this evening? You can also text us, 204-588-7355. What do you think the Jets need to do to take it all the way this year? Trevor, I want to talk about some newness on the team. So head coach Scott Arniel is new, as we know. But what other changes have been made since last season?
The nice way to say it is not a lot.
Okay.
The group talked about running it back. They weren't happy with the way they finished, and certainly, I don't know if anybody would be happy, especially like you said off the top there, finishing 4th in the NHL and having one of the best records in the NHL. I don't think this group is complacent in being, hey, we were good last year, we'll be good this year. I think it's, hey, we were good last year and we should have done more. We ran into, a hot Colorado team. In saying that, there were some options for young guys to step in this year, and really, we saw, the Brad Lamberts, the Nikita Chubrikovs. I mean, those kids are going to step in at some point and certainly get their shot. But I really, kind of want to see what the next steps are for the Jets here. And so, do we have sort of quote unquote new blood coming in? Not really, but I think there's a renewed sense of we have a job to do, and we're going to do it better this year. Which is a big thing to say for the Jets.
And I know Winnipeggers want them to take it further this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love a good whiteout party. I want to hear from folks who are listening. What's your dream lineup tonight? Who do you want to see hit the ice first? Phone us, 204-780-0893. Send us a text, 204-588-7355.
I think Scott Arniel's in the a big fan of the if it ain't broke, don't fix it camp sort of thing. So
So similar to Wednesday?
Yeah, not a lot of differences I think you'll see. I know that Hellebuck was taking, first team reps today in terms of getting off the ice first, so he'll probably be the starter for tonight, which you expect in the home opener. But I don't think this team is going to change much. I mean, it worked pretty well the other night. And if it doesn't work, I think you're going to see a little bit of line juggling, but not a lot of changes of guys coming in and out of the lineup, that's for sure.
Who do you think are going to be the standout veterans this year? Who's going to kind of hold down the fort in those positions?
Well, I mean, you got to see the normal guys step up, right? Like the Kyle Connors, the Mark Scheifele's have to step up and be there. Gabe Velarde's got to have another big season for scoring goals. I like the way the third line played against Edmonton the other night as well. So that third line is going to be a key line from, I'm forgetting the guy on the other side now. Anyway,
All good.
I just blanked on the name, but legitimately looking at that third line, you kind of go, okay, those guys are going to be a key line, whether it be checking the other team's best line or scoring goals. And then you want to see the guys in the middle, the guys that sort of, the that are in between that line, sort of the Perfettis, the Ehlers. They can't rely on Scheifele and Velarde and Connor every night to score all the goals. This Jets team is built to balance that scoring a little bit more. We saw a little bit from the third line. We saw a little bit from the first line. Let's get that second line rolling now, and we'll see how well this team can, this team can probably go a long way if they get those three lines, contributing at fairly even rates at that point.
Right. Now you mentioned there's not a ton of change this year, but are there any new players that you think fans should be keeping an eye on?
I want to see what exactly what Perfetti's going to bring to the ice now. I mean, he's got a new contract. He's a little bit more confidence in terms of the team saying, yeah, we want you back. We want you back in a big way. Let's keep it going. Beyond that, I mean, Appleton, there's the other guy I was going to say. Mason Appleton had a great night the other night against Edmonton. Let's see if he can improve upon what he did last year. And then from there, I mean, you want to see, some of the defensive guys step up. Colin Miller's got the big shot, and we didn't get to see a lot of him when he got traded here. I mean, he sat in the press box for most of the playoffs. And then, you get a couple other guys that are, rolling on that fourth line, whether it be, the Rasmus Kupari already has a goal this season, whether it be, David Gustafsson. And all of a sudden, this team has options all over the place that they can throw onto the ice at any time in any situation, which is, I think, the big thing. Scott O'Neill's got to see the special teams really sort of get better this year if the team's going to take a step forward. So penalty killing power play's got to certainly improve. But end of the day, getting those guys on the ice that are a little more confident, have a little more confidence in themselves, will make a big difference for this team moving forward, and certainly scoring goals will do that.
Now, puck drops at 7 p.m., if I'm correct?
I believe so.
I believe so. We want to hear from folks who are going to that game. What are you most excited about? What jersey are you wearing? Maybe what food? I know when I go to hockey games, I'm all about the food and the snacks. So what are you excited to return to this season with this home opener? Give us a call, 204-780-0893. 204 is, that's 204-780-0893. To text us, 204-588-7355. Trevor, are you going tonight? Are you heading to the game?
I'm not. I didn't get ticket. I know I was going to, and so I'll be listening to everything. So
okay, what's your kind of go-to game day experience if you were to be at the game live? What does your evening look like?
I mean, I'm normally showing up a little bit early. I want to get down there and watch warm up a little bit, see who's in the lineup, who's not. See the guys, sort of getting ready for the game or whatever, and then between warm up and start of the game, go grab whatever concession item sounds good that night and played at a high level. And certainly, with the way that again, take nothing away from Chicago, they're coming in with an 0-1 record. But I mean, it should be exciting tonight seeing Connor Bedard here, seeing some of the guys that are rolling in with them. They got a little bit more of a veteran lineup this year than they did last year, so should be a fun game tonight to see if the Jets can sort of play. I mean, they beat the. Right.
All the Connors. Yesterday morning during our sports conversation with Scott Regier, there was a conversation about what is it with the name Connor and hockey players?
A ton of them now. So, I mean, I don't know how it happened. I don't know where they came from. But
should parents who have high hopes for the kids to be in the NHL be naming their kid Connor?
If you want to have a pretty good shot right now. Not saying that's going to be the trend moving forward. But
similar to what a lot of folks are thinking right now. Walter says that game against Edmonton sure got me fired up. It was a great reminder that despite their early playoff exit, they're still a very dangerous team that can't be taken lightly. How important do you think that first game on Wednesday was? Do you think that would, if it had gone the other way, do you think it would change people's excitement for today?
I think it does, and I think it changes the way the team looks at themselves as well. Again, the team came in knowing that, hey, we're the same group as last year. We don't have a lot of changes. We have the same guys basically coming back. But to go out and actually, and again, I mean, to use a term that doesn't, to slap around the defending Western Conference champions, to literally take them to the to the woodshed and show them what's going on. I'm very happy with the way that the Jets may respond in their own mind, or do our own thing, and really getting the Oilers to sort of play into the Jets game the other night shows that this team can still control the pace, can still control the game. So I'm excited to see if the Jets can maybe become a little bit more of a forceful team this year in making other teams play their game as opposed to them falling into that
Also,
trap.
I should say Walter continued with, I'll be following the Jets while cheering on the Bombers at the stadium tonight.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
So there's a lot of Winnipeg sporting events happening right now. So I'm sure there were some very difficult decisions made on where people were heading.
And
tonight.
I mean, two, and hey, taking nothing from the Bombers, two winning teams, two teams that are certainly in the upper echelons of the NHL and the CFL. So hey, no wrong choices if you're going to either game tonight.
It's a good place to be a sports fan, Winnipeg.
Absolutely.
We're doing well. We got a text from Rob who says Ehlers has got to step up this year. I was hoping there was more movement with the D-line. Also, Stanley has to do more. What do you think? What do you think of that?
I'm not going to disagree with that. I think that Nikolai Ehlers is contract year for him. He's got to figure out where he was going to be next year and what he wants to do next year. But if he shows up and leads that second line really well, I don't think there's any reason to believe that he can't be one of the top players in at least on the Jets, if not in the NHL. He's got the the speed, he's got the hands. He can basically do almost anything. But he's really got to take control of that second line and make himself into not only a playmaker but a goal scorer as well. I like what he's doing on the power play in terms of the way that he's working on that first power play unit. We'll see if that makes a difference out what his role is going to be. I know that last year they sort of used him in a third pairing, and he was kind of the enforcer sometimes where he dropped the gloves or whatever. But at 6'7", you got to figure out whether you're going to be a 6'7" defensive behemoth or just a guy that's going to go out there and scare a few guys into a fight. So, and I don't mean that negatively.
Are Jets a team that does that?
Well,
often?
No, and that's
it
the
doesn't
thing.
feel
Like if he's going to go out there, if Stanley's going to go out there and be a sort of a shutdown guy, then be a shutdown guy. If you're just going to go out there and fight, you're not going to see a lot of ice time. You might get your 10 or 15 minutes a night, but don't expect much more than that at any point. Whereas if you're going to be one of the shutdown guys, you're probably going to get thrown out there on the penalty kill a little bit more, maybe see a little bit of power play time. We'll see how everything goes, but he's got to figure out whether he's going to be on the ice a lot more or whether he's going to be sitting in the penalty box for 5 minutes at a time.
Right. Rob, right back to you, says, well put on Stanley. So Rob appreciates your take. I
actually like the fact that, again, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big Logan Stanley fan for the way he's played so far, but I think that for as much rope as the Jets have given him, now's the time he's sort of got to grab that line and say.
So join the conversation, share your thoughts on tonight's lineup, what you're hoping to see. Maybe you have thoughts about Wednesday's game you want to share. If you're heading to the stadium, let us know what you're looking forward to for tonight's game, even if it's just the food and the music and the atmosphere. It's going to be a good one. Give us a call, 204-780-0893, or you can text us at 204.
For sure.
Fire Perfect. What are the teams to watch this season? What do you think?
That's a tough question because there's so many good players in the league now, right? It doesn't matter which team you look at, there's always a superstar in every team. But I'm hoping that, and again, based on their first game and certainly what we saw, I'm hoping that Utah makes a bit of a splash, if not for anything, just because of a great job in beating Chicago the other night. But I mean, looking at sort of around the league again, some of the standalone kind of teams that are out in the upper echelon. Florida's going to be another good team, although they lost to Ottawa last night. I think Ottawa could be a surprising team as well. A lot of good young players there. And then certainly, if we're taking a look, a little bit more of the outsiders, the teams that might scare a few people. New Jersey looks really good with Jacob Markstrom in net now, and then certainly, I'm not going to shy away from on the Pacific Division there. Want to see what Seattle's going to do this year. Seattle was sort of on the bubble last year, didn't really know whether it was going to make the playoffs or not. It missed it eventually, but a lot of changes there in Seattle as well, with some new players coming in, some Stanley Cup winners coming in there, and certainly they could make a push in that Pacific Division as well.
Back in February, Winnipeg Jets chairman Mark Chipman mentioned that the team's future could be in jeopardy if attendance didn't improve, and that caused a lot of fear. People were like, "Oh, are the Jets leaving again?" And obviously, that attendance went back up once we got into the playoffs.
Sure.
Do you think we could see another attendance dip this season, or is this a team that you think are gonna keep folks coming in?
I think the focus, and we talk about this a lot, in hockey circles, about the hockey isn't the problem. The team is not the problem. It's what you offer outside of that.
The game experience.
Right. There's a business side of the game and there's a hockey side of the game. The Jets don't have a problem with the hockey side of the game. They had a great team last year. They certainly won enough games to scare everybody and certainly put a shot across the bow for the rest of the NHL in terms of just, being a dangerous team. But the business side of the game has to improve. And I'll relate it back to Utah. Utah's owner this year, Ryan Smith, came out and they dropped a bunch of popular concession items to $3 an item. So
interesting.
Hot dogs, nachos, stuff like that. You could basically, but he said in order for people to come down and eat at the arena, we have to make arena food affordable at that point for people to come down. And I think if the Jets start looking at maybe a little bit along that side where they could actually make, like, people go out all the time and stop at whatever restaurant before they get to the
game.
Right.
Yeah.
And do whatever they have to in terms of either getting dinner or getting a quick bite or whatever they're having at that point. But if the Jets made it a little bit more affordable and certainly to come down to the rink and eat there, I think you'd see a lot more people there earlier and staying a little bit longer as well. Beyond that, I mean, the entertainment is going to get better. I know they just redid a whole bunch of sound system in
I was reading about the stage and the performances.
So there's going to be a bunch of different stuff. We're almost going to a Nashville style idea where they have a band playing and stuff or whatever. So some of that stuff might generate a little bit more interest as well. We'll have to see how it goes or whatever. But I like the fact that the Jets are taking risks now. And yeah, it might not work. It might not really bounce off people as well as they're thinking, but at least they're trying something different now, rather than just going, you know what we have is safe and we know people are gonna be okay with it. They're opening the door to a few new ideas and seeing if they work now. So I don't know if we're going to see a dip in attendance. We might see a few people go, it's not for me or whatever, but I don't know if we'll see that sort of big, dip in people going, I just don't want to go there for food or for whatever at that point. So
we'll have to wait and see. We've got one last text. Troy has a question. It's probably for you since you know much more about hockey than I do, Trevor.
All right.
What do you think of the trade we made for Pierre Dubois, brought over 3 Los Angeles players? What do you think?
Long term, I like it. Not that I'm complaining that Pierre-Luc Dubois is now on his second team away from Winnipeg after being moved to Washington this past summer. But I like Gabe Vilardi. I like Iafallo. I like Kupari. I think that there's a lot of value in terms of those 3 players. Certainly if the Jets are looking forward and maybe going to move 1 or 2 of them in terms of trying to acquire additional player who may or may not wanted to have been here, makes a huge difference just on not only in the team in the locker room in terms of having guys that are excited to be here, but certainly for fans as well. You like what you see from Vilardi. He's a physical guy, scores goals. You like what you see from Iafallo. He goes into the corners, he plays hard. And Kupari had that nice goal the other night against Edmonton. For a young kid, he looks like he might be rounded into form. So we might end up okay. I mean, we are okay without Dubois, but we might end up better than where a lot of people might have expected after trading away a guy who came in with a lot of potential, but never really realized that potential.
All right. Well, Troy, thank you for that question. And Trevor, thank you for joining us
no problem.
This afternoon, especially on the Friday ahead of a long weekend.
Yeah,
always appreciate it.
Always glad to be here. Thanks for that, Chloe.
Yeah, Trevor Alexander is a writer for the Hockey Blog, and the puck drops tonight for the Jets' home opener at the Canada Life Centre at 7 p.m.
Boys that are not mine, circling the goodwill, trying to find a spot that's free. I keep looking until City Hall, Central Park, solid gold. After dark, running every stop sign, trying to make the garbage hill climb. Red wine by the riverside. Cross the bridge when we get there. Maybe climb the fire escape. Anything to get away. City Hall, Central Park, solid gold. After playing chicken on Sherbrooke, maybe hit a karaoke bar. We don't have to go too far. Don't you know this is for fun? City Hall, Central Park, solid gold. After dark. City Hall, Central Park, solid gold. After
That's Winnipeg singer-songwriter Diaphane with Solid Gold. Her debut EP of the same name is out now. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio Noon. However, the program is coming to an end shortly here, but lots still to come on CBC Radio 1, including Up to Speed starting at 3 o'clock. And Faith Fundal is here for a look ahead.
Chloe, escalating violence on Winnipeg transit buses has the union representing drivers calling for more action. We're going to hear from the head of the Winnipeg Community Safety Team for his take and what else he thinks needs to be done. That and more coming up on Up to Speed this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Faith.
Thank you.
That is host of Up to Speed, Faith Fundal. That program starts at 3 p.m., runs until 6 p.m., so make sure you tune in for that. I'm Chloe Friesen. Thank you for listening to Radio Noon. Our technician today is Dylan Longhurst. Wendy Parker is our show director. Kevin Nipatebo is in charge of that YouTube live stream. Thank you to the whole team who helped put together today's show. Coming up on CBC Radio 1 CBC Podcast Showcase. Happy Friday. Have an excellent long weekend. Hope you do, as Corey Funk says, something you love with the people you love.